Well, hey there, fellers. Welcome to my review. And this is very abbreviated, mind you, of Fear the Walking Dead Season 1. This spin-off of the wildly popular series The Walking Dead explores the early days of the zombie apocalypse, focusing on a new set of characters and their struggles to survive. The first season starts off slow, yet at the same time fast, introducing us to the main characters in their everyday lives-ish before the outbreak. See the family dynamics at play, which are very highly dysfunctional, and the relationships between these characters as the world falls apart. And this show does an excellent job at building tension and suspense, leading to what I consider a very good payoff at the end of the series. I say the series, but at the end of the first season. Like, it is genuinely really good, guys. And due to that, here is a brief synopsis of the main characters of the first season. Daniel Salazar, played by Ruben, I'm not sure there's an accented E, Blades, is a pragmatic character who's shown he is willing to cross lines to get what he wants, but he is also a realist and very well aware that society is breaking down. Next, Ophelia Salazar, played by Mercedes Mason, is the daughter of Daniel. She is naive, while also being slightly manipulative, and she also seems to be sheltered. Then we see Madison Clark, played by Kim Dickens, who is a high school guidance counselor and the mother of two children. She is a strong and determined character who will do anything to protect her family. And anything does mean anything. And anyways, next to is Liza Ortiz, who is played by Elizabeth Rodriguez, and she is a woman who says she's a nurse, but shockers, turns out not to be, but she sort of becomes one later on. Then we see Chris Manawa, who is played by Lorenzo James Henry. I think it's Henry? Not sure, but he's the biological son of Travis Manawa, and he is a typical teenager with a chip on his shoulder who believes the world owes him something. Again, very typical teenager. And he does, that being said, like, he does actually step up to the plate once when needed to be, even if it ultimately doesn't really culminate into anything. But anyways, next is Travis Manawa, played by Cliff Curtis, is a high school English teacher and the boyfriend of, let's say boyfriend, but like, new husband, I guess, of Madison. And he is a moral and compassionate character who struggles with the harsh realities of the apocalypse, and this character is also very inconsistent at times. Like, it gets pretty bad, guys, the inconsistency. Anyways, next is Alicia Clark, played by Alicia Debnam Carey, who is Madison's daughter, a high school student, and she is very naive and struggling with the reality of the apocalypse. Next, Nick Clark, played by Frank Delane, who some of you might remember from the Harry Potter movies, or for those of you guys who like music, might remember from the band Tinker Wright, spelled with a W-R, and who is Madison's son and a recovering drug addict, and he is a complex and damaged character who struggles with addiction even as the world falls apart. And Nick is very often at odds with his family, but ultimately wants to protect them. Alright, now let's start with the episodes. First one, the pilot. We meet Nick, the first zombies, and then the main characters, except for the Salazars and Strand. Nothing really happens other than establishing characters and the improbable survival of a zombie bite, which apparently doesn't break through the clothing, even though realistically it would've. And then So Close Yet So Far is the direct continuation of the pilot, and a chunk of the family actually make it home, trying to, get shit packed so that way they can go to the desert, which ultimately doesn't happen. And we see Travis getting separated from Madison and them to head towards Liza and Chris, and they wind up in the city, and a riot starts. So they try to flee, and they flee to the Salazars. So we meet Daniel, Griselda, and Ophelia Salazar, and Power is in and out. And we also get the first zombie kill done by a main character in this episode. Next, The Dog, which is a direct continuation of So Close Yet So Far. And we see a zombie kill someone, a game of Monopoly, a dog who dies, which sucks, but it is what it is. We also see Travis, Griselda, and Ophelia escape, but as well as Daniel. But unfortunately for Griselda, she gets a nasty foot injury, which comes into play later. And we also see an escape to the weirdest house, and I'm not even kidding here, genuinely, the weirdest house I've ever seen with the weirdest outside area I have ever seen. It is interesting, if nothing else. And we see a shotgun get retrieved for killing a zombie, which got into their house and ate the dog, and, also ammo and a very close call. And we also see the National Guard get introduced at the end. And then we go on to Not Fade Away, and it has now been 9 days since those first 3 episodes. and the National Guard has erected a fence around the community, and we meet a very manipulative character named Moyers, and we see how very inconsistent the characters are. In this case, Travis is very inconsistent, but it's not surprising, unfortunately. Like, they were establishing things, but man, the inconsistency is major. Anyways, some naivety is had. We also meet a doctor, and it's implied that civilians are being moved to a government treatment facility, and that no one is telling the townspeople. And then shit happens, and Nick and another character get brought into this facility at the end of the episode. This character was one who was having a breakdown. His name is Doug. Anyways, not important. Then we see Cobalt, which is the direct continuation of the previous episode. And we see Ophelia getting pissed off about the lack of communication, throwing bottles and breaking them. And Andy comes to try to defuse the situation, but gets grabbed to be tortured by Daniel. And, yeah, I called him easily manipulative military member slash torture subject number one, because Daniel tortures information about Cobalt, as well as what the hell the military is actually, not telling people, about this whole situation. And yeah, anyways, Ophelia finds out about the torture and has a crisis. But for those of you guys wondering what Cobalt is, it is the quote-unquote humane termination of the survivors of the settlement at 9 a.m. the next day. And yeah, it basically gets proven that the National Guardsmen really don't give a damn about the survivors. But again, U.S. Government, like, is it surprising? Anyways, we see cages that the survivors, who were pulled out in the middle of the night, like, where they're all being held. And yeah, we also meet Victor Strand, and we also see the sports arena where about 2,000 some odd zombies are being held. Now onto the finale known as The Good Man, and this is the finale, which is a direct continuation of the previous episode, and everyone is packing up to leave, and as they do, Travis makes a boneheaded decision, leaving Andy after getting directions to the facility, which will come and bite them in the ass. And Daniel leads the entire 2,000 zombies from the sports arena to the facility, and we learn that the guardsmen are basically just stormtroopers, but with significantly less charm. Like, that's how bad their aim is. It is laughably bad. Eh, ooh boy. And, what I wrote here was the zombies are essentially a distraction so that survivors could get Nick, which is very cold but also impressive in a way. And then Chris and Alicia stay behind in an SUV, which turns out to be very short-lived because of the 3 guardsmen who are trying to flee the facility, one of which is kind of rapey. And Chris tries to defend her. Don't worry, nothing bad happens other than Chris getting knocked out, and the guardsmen steal the SUV and leave. And then we see the doc who took Nick in the middle of the night, because at the end of the previous episode, Nick and Griselda got took away to the government facility. Nick went into a cage, and Griselda got there to be treated, but she ends up ultimately getting put down by one of them guns that's meant to humanely put down cattle. One of the pressure cap gun thing. Anyways, in the chaos, when the doc tells the staff to evacuate, we see, Liza, one of the things she sees is a guardsman who was bit on the neck actually goes commit suicide by rear rotor of helicopter. Very impressive bit of special effects. Anyways, we see Nick make his escape with help from Victor Strand, and we also learn that Victor Strand is a very, very good shot. And later we see Strand and Nick making it to a dead end, and it almost seems like it's going to be the end for these guys until a last-minute save. And then we get to a scuffle in the kitchen, which leads to Liza being bit. Not that we realize at this point. But, yeah, anyways, we see Ophelia and Daniel learning about the death of Griselda. And later we come across a massive pile of ash and bones that's still smoking. When, they press about, hey, where's Griselda? And, yeah, Ophelia cries. I don't know if Daniel actually cries, but I don't really remember, but still, it's pretty screwed up, nonetheless. And anyways, a couple things happen, the whole crew leaves the facility, and then, crew discover Alicia and Chris of which has been beaten, and, Madison's not happy, but she's just glad they're alive and healthy. But then, Andy comes out, with a gun held. Ophelia tries talking him down, only to get shot in the shoulder. And then we see something that's pretty thematic for the first season of the Walking Dead shows, except for World Beyond. But I haven't seen the show. Oh, sorry, excuse me. I haven't seen the show, so who knows about World Beyond if this happens. But with his bare hands, Travis beats the ever-loving shit out of Andy, leaving his face a bloody mess. But Madison, I think it was Madison, but anyways, gets stops Travis. You can't get off there. Sorry, stops Travis from doing more of this. From finishing beating them up. Sorry, chat. Someone just happened with my computer, and I'm just making sure nothing bad happened. Right. Anyways, back to the review. I'll figure that out later. Anyways, it's interesting though that it mirrors the original Walking Dead show with that. Anyways, we see the group heading west towards Strand's house because east was a very bad idea. Anyways, Liza patches up Ophelia, and Nick says, "It's like I've been living this for a long time and now everyone is catching up with me," which is still a very interesting statement. Anyways, later on, Strand tells Nick what the plan is and says the only way, or actually, Nick asks, Strand what the plan is, and Strand says the only way to survive in a mad world is to embrace the madness. And then Liza says her goodbyes to Chris. We find out Liza's bitten, and then Travis shoots Liza, which very much shatters him. And in between this, we actually see in the distance through the telescope, well, I say telescope, but binoculars things that Strand has, the ship known as the Abigail, which becomes a central theme for the next season. Also, did I mention about the several scrapped, but very clearly at one point intended incest angles that thankfully never made it anywhere? Because, hoo boy. Had they actually pursued those like it really seemed like they were going to, we'd have friggin' heard a whole bunch of banjo playing, guys. Which is... Anyways, one thing I noticed here is that the performances were relatively solid, but there was a lot of inconsistency, which makes me wonder how much crap got scrapped that shouldn't have been, and how much that wasn't that should have been, for consistency. The show had very good pacing with just the right balance of action and character development, because it was pretty good. I did have one issue, though, and that was with the editing and the special effects of the show. It was very inconsistent. Some of it was good, some of it was bad. But it is what it is. At least the setting of the show, Los Angeles, was pretty well utilized. Overall, Fear the Walking Dead Season 1 is a great start to the series, and it set the stage for what is a very intense and thrilling series. And the characters are well written, complex, and relatable, other than, like I said, the inconsistencies. And I would very highly recommend the show to fans of the zombie genre and anyone looking for a new show to binge watch. And to this point, guys, I give Fear the Walking Dead Season 1 an 8 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to see more, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will make sure to be back soon with my Fear the Walking Dead Season 2 review. Thank you guys, and I love you. Wish you guys the best. Peace.